Today on the call, we have Kende Anthony Adepoju. He's the technical product manager, and I think that is payroll engines at Remote Technologies. So if you don't know about Remote Technologies, you can quickly do a Google search. But trust me, that's a good company, and our able, amiable, and highly experienced facilitator today is working at Remote. So currently at Remote, Anthony focuses on developing products that simplify global hiring, payroll, and workforce management for distributed teams. So if you want to know what happens behind the scenes with your HR, all those applications that you submit and then they send you love letters, you want to know how they manage to do all of those things that you get love letters timely. So one of the people that you can imagine behind the scenes is somebody like Brother Anthony Adepoju. I set up all the systems. That's just on the cheeky side of things. But prior to this role, he held product leadership roles where he helped launch and grow innovative digital solutions, translating customer insights into products that deliver measurable business impact. So that's the person that we have with us here today, our able facilitator, Brother Anthony Adepoju. Ladies and gentlemen, please just give a wonderful round of applause. If you can unmute, just unmute. But if you can't unmute, you can use the screen features. Yes, please, a wonderful round of applause. Just keep the energy rolling. Just keep it rolling. Just keep it rolling. Keep it rolling. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I can feel it here. I can feel it here. Thank you very much. Brother Anthony, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Brother Justice. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, I feel like this hype is becoming too much. And I hope I can meet up
Thank you.
with all of this hype.
Thank you for accepting our invitation. We're very grateful and blessed to have you on the call, sir.
It's an honor.
Thank you. Okay,
All right.
so over to you, sir. The facilitation can start now. So the idea is to have you speak for a couple of minutes, say 40 to 45 minutes thereabouts, and then we can have, is it 30 minutes? I haven't checked that, but please feel free to give us as much wealth of knowledge, then we will have some questions. But for others, all participants, please, you can use the question feature in the chat. You can, I think we have Q&A just at the bottom of your screen if you're joining on the laptop or on your phone. You can ask your questions, and thereafter, when he's done speaking, we will take each of those questions. Thank you very much, and over to you, sir.
Thank you. So I'm going to start by sharing a presentation I prepared. One moment. Please let me know when you can see, because I can't track that on this screen. Okay. All right. So today I decided to structure this conversation around product management in the AI era, because we are in a different world right now. Looking back at the beginning of this year, January, and now, a lot of things have changed in the tech world. So AI is like a hot topic right now. It's what everybody is trying to understand, trying to lay their hands on, trying to adapt in their workflows and all of that. So it makes sense to then talk about product management in the context of this era, because product management before the AI era was quite different, as you're going to see when we start the conversation. So, and I'll be focusing on the skills that will keep you relevant as a tech product manager in the AI era if you desire to be a product manager. All right. We're going to talk about, I'll do a quick intro to product management itself, in case there is anyone who doesn't really understand what product management is. A product manager, the profession itself is one of those professions that is difficult to explain to people in one sentence, as you are going to see. And then we're going to talk about the PM value shift, yesterday, previously versus today in the AI era, the skills that will keep you relevant, what companies value today if you are trying to land a role, a PM role, what companies value today, human skills that matter even more in the AI era. Then we're going to have a short interactive exercise. And then lastly would be I would share some tips on resources and further reading because you can't really learn everything in one day. So, what is product management? If you do a quick Google search, you're going to see things like, oh, product manager is someone who manages a product from ideation up until delivery, up until success. You'd see like different definitions. But to break things down, a product manager is someone who understands customer problems, someone who is able to take those customer problems, translate them into products by working with the product teams, designers, you have engineers, you have a bunch of people on those teams. The product manager is the one who interfaces with the customer, um, decides which solution works for those problems, aligns everything with the business goals because there is what the customer wants, there is the business goals, does the prioritization and measures success, determines what the success metrics are, and at the end of the day, is the one who would keep tracking those metrics to ensure that they are always optimized for success. So this is what the role of a PM looks like if we were to like break it down. This is simplified because there can be more roles depending on the company. So a product manager's role can differ a little depending on the company that you are working with. There are companies where, as a product manager, you would work very closely with engineers. You would almost write code. In fact, there are companies where, as a product manager, you would work a lot with the business stakeholders, and like it depends on the company. So your role might weigh heavier on engineering, on design, on business, depending on the company where you work at. But at the end of the day, all of these interactions would happen. The product manager always finds himself or herself at the center of the customers and the business. And in the business, you would have like your design team, you have your engineering teams, you'd have your business teams, stakeholders. The product manager sits in the center. So customers, the product manager is constantly taking feedback from customers, trying to understand the problems of customers, translating that into the language that the business understands, the engineering teams understand, the design team understand. So it's a role that has multiple legs, if I'm to put it that way. Before now, before today, even as recent as December last year, and these metrics that I have here, these 40%, 30% are not things that this is based on my own experience. This is not something that you can, if you go on Google and say, well, what's the percentage of time product managers spend on documentation, on analysis, you would hardly find figures. But based on my experience so far, and you would find that before now, product managers spend at least 40% of their time on documentation. And this involves things like writing user stories and product requirement documents. What are these things? So remember, I was talking about the product manager interfacing with customers. When you get the request, when you understand the problem of customers, you need to then translate that into language. There's something we call user stories, which is basically you writing the requirement from the perspective of the user. So you would say something like, "Oh, um, as a payroll specialist, I want to be able to process payroll so that I can pay salaries." Something like that. So it's usually framed that way. Like you put yourself in the perspective on the user, you would narrate what you want to be able to do and what you are trying to achieve by that action. So product managers usually spend time drafting all of these user stories, writing requirement documentation. And when it comes to then taking all of these user stories and requirements, they try to generate wireframes, write business documents in terms of saying, oh, If we are able to solve this problem, this is the market size, this is what this is the impact that this is going to give to the business. Like they spend a lot of time doing all of that. As far as depending on the company, you can find product managers building the prototype, like designing what that solution would actually look like as a prototype. And then this like most of the time is usually spent on this initial stage. It's called discovery in the product management world. So discovery, like you are trying to understand everything, putting it into documentation. So like most of the time is spent on that. And then you find that product managers spend 20% of their time on analysis, because inside all of these things, you are also doing a lot of analysis. They always say that customers don't, or humans really don't know what they need. So it is you as a product manager who would be able, out when they are narrating their problems to you, you should be able to identify what they actually need. And from that, it's just like you can picture, say you have a stomach pain today, right? If you have a stomach pain and you go to a doctor is going to ask you what part of your stomach is it on the left side, is it on the right side? The doctor would question you to understand. They will run some tests. You can have a stomach pain today, you go to the hospital, they say, oh, it's ulcer. You can have the same stomach pain tomorrow, you go to the hospital, still stomach pain, like it's something else. So they would need to like ask questions to be able to understand what exactly is the problem. So that is similar to how a product manager thinks. When a user says, oh, I have this problem, you need to dig deep, ask a lot of questions. So that is where all of these analysis comes into play. They need to analyze all of this customer feedback. And there is a lot of data as well, depending on the company where you find yourself. You need to take data from different sources, analyze all of those data. And you find also that product managers spend like 30% of their time in meetings. You usually have a lot of meetings, because to be able to do all of these, you have meetings. There are data that you get without meetings that are documented. There are data that you need to get from meetings. You need to align with the business. You need to explain to senior stakeholders what the plan is. You need to communicate the plan. So you find that they are always in meetings. And then you are now left with like 10% of your time to actually think, because you are always busy. So you are now left with 10% of your time to actually think. So it has always been quite difficult. Um, and you would find that the product manager's role is usually a not so easy one. At times, it can become so difficult to even measure your success, because you are always busy doing different things. Today, you are at a sales pitch supporting sales to sell the product. Tomorrow, you are interacting with customers to understand what the problem is. So you find yourself doing a lot of things. Now, AI has happened, and you'll find that, again, this is data from my own experience. At least for me today, I spend 10% of my time on documentation, 20% of my time on AI orchestration, and 70% on actual thinking, decision making, execution. I feel like AI is one of the best things that has ever happened to me personally, because there are like all of those things I mentioned earlier, like the user stories, the TRDs, analysis. It has become way, way easier. You can connect AI to all the different documents. You can use AI to take meeting notes when you are in a meeting. You can use AI to prototype. It does all of the analysis for you. And this 10%, as I mentioned, is the time you're actually spending to direct AI, because AI hallucinates a lot. You need to guide it. So you're basically just like a movie director saying, oh, I want you to do it this way. I want you to do it that way. But AI is able to like, there are things that I used to spend a whole day, 2 days figuring out, trying to document, trying to put in place, trying to structure that. With AI now, I can do in less than an hour. And this is not an exaggeration. So AI has changed the way we work. It has changed the way we now need to position ourselves in the different space. And I feel like this does not apply to product management alone. It applies to every other role, right? So that is what AI has brought. So you find that the value of a product manager, the value that a product manager is able to deliver, and the perspective, especially when you are working in a very big organization, the what they expect from you is now big as a product manager. The expectations is now beginning to differ. So before on the left side, you will see before you would be expected to be drafting requirements. They'll be asking you, oh, when is this? Have you done this PRD? Oh, have you done the requirement document? Oh, where is this document? You're managing a backlog, um, chasing customers, chasing your team, chasing stakeholders, trying to put up fires here and there, and all of that. Um, Now, because of these new assistants that we have, which is AI, that has changed. You are now able to, as a product manager, you need to focus now more on strategy, because all of these requirements are things that AI can just, as in, if you use Claude, you see things like combobulate. AI will tell you I'm combobulating. AI can just combobulate something, a document for you in like 2 seconds. Like you'll be like how did this happen? Right. So now, as a product manager, these are the things that are expected of a product manager. You need to be somebody who is able to strategize and communicate that strategy. And basically, strategy is, so when I say strategy, it means it has to do with planning. It has to do with you now looking at the bigger picture, not just focusing on, oh, these are the requirements. I need a user to be able to, let me use the example I gave earlier, to run payroll so that they can pay salaries. You're no longer focusing on that. You're now focusing on how many users are we able to get given the market size? What are the other markets that we've not tapped into that we now need to tap into? You're now able to think big, look at the bigger picture, and strategize based on that. Second is decision making. AI has not gotten there yet, based on what we've seen so far. So humans will still be needed to make decisions. So as a product manager, you'll be expected to like rise up to the occasion, make decisions. There are times where you just have to make hard decisions. You have to take risks that AI would not take for you. It is you as a product manager who would take um, that risk. Then you need to be able to manage customer outcomes better. The AI orchestration as well, the skill to be able to actually use that AI to do all of these things that I mentioned on the left is an important skill as well. And lastly is the business impact. So what are those skills that will keep you relevant? I grouped them because I don't want to create multiple slides. I think I have about 6 of them. So group one, we have problem framing, customer empathy, strategic thinking, which relates to what I mentioned earlier. So problem framing, you are now, because of the extra value you are able to give, you are not just asking what should we build, you are asking what problem are we actually solving, because to build now is like one of the least of my worries, personally. Like in terms of building, like we have a lot of tools now that enables the actual building, but you need to ensure you're building the right thing. And that is why the question that you should be asking, you need is the skill to be able to ask that, find out what problem you're actually solving. Like for example, I added an example here. Netflix solved convenience. Before Netflix, we used to have movie renting and all of that. And Netflix was the first company to actually make things go digital, right? Before that company started coming up. So they didn't just solve the capability to stream videos, they solved convenience. Now that we have like digital streaming platforms in the world today, I'm sure that the children who were born like in the era of this digitalization don't even know that there was a time when, sorry for using the word children, people who were born um, at, in the digital age did not realize that there was a time where we used to rent video cassettes in Nigeria, and you have to pay some deposit, and you go back to when you return it, collect your deposit, or you collect another set of movies, you take it to your house, and then you watch it. That is how we used to live. But now, like, you can just sit in your house, or even on your phone, you can watch any movie from anywhere without plugging any physical device into your phone or your TV to watch those movies. So that's that is an example of being able to identify the problem, looking at the problem deeper than the users. So you need to be able to like frame that problem properly so that you ensure you are solving the right thing. The second one is customer empathy. And what does this mean? Simply putting yourself in the position of the customer. It is, and this is not something that AI can do. Like AI doesn't understand emotions. AI doesn't even have the concept of time. I would tell AI to like give me a plan or something. It will be telling me, oh, this will take 2 weeks. Something that I can do in like a day or 2 days. It will tell me, oh, and based on the planning, this will take 1 week, this will take 2 weeks. So you find that they don't even have like understand the concept of time. They don't understand emotions yet. Maybe that's still possible in the future. But as a product manager, you need to then leverage that. Now, that is a skill that you need to. What does it mean to put yourself in the place of the customer? Trying it is again, it relates to that first skill I mentioned. When you ask the right questions and you frame the problem properly, you are able to then put yourself in the place of the customer and understand what the customer actually needs and not what the customer wants, not what the customer is requesting for. There are times where what the customer is requesting for is not actually what the customer needs. So you need to be able to identify that need and solve for that need instead. And when you solve for that need, you have even gone beyond what the customer is asking for. So customer empathy is a very important skill, and it is something that only an human can have right now. The third one is strategic thinking. You should be asking whether it is even worth building what you're trying to build, whether a problem is even worth solving. Is this the right time to solve the problem? Who is going to benefit from this? What are the things, the trade-offs? What is this going to? What is the impact? What am I going to need to shift? Because you, a lot of times you don't have one problem at a time to solve. You would have multiple problems at a time. So you then need to decide on which one will benefit you right now. What is the trade-off? Which one should you prioritize? Looking at the business goals, looking at what the customer wants. Especially if you work in a company where customers can threaten you with legal action and all of that, it can be very, very crazy. So you need to be able to ask these right questions like, should we build this? Why are we building it now? Should we even build it now? Who is going to benefit? What is the trade-off? And so on. Then in this skill group number two, the first one I have is AI literacy. This is like a must right now. I feel like sometimes I have this fear of missing out as well. And I believe most of us would do because you will just wake up one morning and you find, oh, they've launched a new model that does this and XYZ. And you'll be like, I've not even fully used the previous model. And they've launched another model that is doing this. Like, how do I even catch up? Like, you just find that what's the name of these people? Anthropic, the owners of Claude. There was a period that they were releasing updates like almost every week. Oh, we have done this. Before you even try to understand that they've done another one. So AI literacy is now very, very, I feel like it is very, very vital to your success in any role, not just product management. And this is not necessary. This does not necessarily mean using AI to code, to vibe code, and all of that. You need to understand how to the right prompts to use with AI, you need to understand what the limitations are. You need to understand hallucinations. Hallucinations are assumptions that AI makes sometimes that are not, it just brings up those things and states them as facts. And if you are not careful, you will not be able to identify those hallucinations and you would end up doing the wrong thing. So then AI workflows, you need to understand when to use AI and when not to use AI. For example, at some point, personally, I felt like I was giving my creativity away, even though I've not found a solution to that yet. I felt like I was giving my creativity away. So what I try to do personally now is to come up with a plan myself and not let AI do a plan for me, because you will just find that you don't own that plan when you're using working with AI. You don't own the plan. AI keeps telling you, "Oh, this is the plan." You say, "Okay, go on." It already decides how it's going to execute the plan, and you just find that you don't even understand what is happening there. And if there's a problem, you run into trouble. So try as much as possible to like use AI as a co-pilot or a partner, and not an autopilot that you just give everything, like make the plan, execute the plan, and do all of that. Try as much as possible to be involved. Try to preserve your creativity so that you don't give your creativity. That's my own personal advice, though. Don't give your creativity to AI. The other one I have here is communication and influence. One of the things that people usually say, I've seen a lot of people talking about product management, say, "Oh, as a product manager, you are the CEO of the product," and all of that. I feel like that is wrong. I don't believe that you are the CEO of anything. If anything, you are the chief servant as a product manager, because you find yourself in every way, everywhere, trying to like solve people's problems. You are just at the beck and call of problems. You are just solving problems morning, afternoon, night. So how are you the CEO, right? So PMs rarely have authority, and how they succeed is that they need to be able to tell a story and persuade people, negotiate, always seek alignment. That is what you, so that is how you influence people to do your bidding. You tell a good story, you try to persuade them, you negotiate with them. When people have alternative ideas, you bring your own facts and you use those facts to persuade them. So data is one of the things that product managers embrace a lot. You always ensure you have data. For example, you as a product manager, you speak with customers a lot, and then one day your boss, who is the CEO, says, "Oh, we need to build a feature that does X, Y, Z." I can't think of a quick example right now, but like your boss can say, "Oh, we need to build this feature," but you that you have been interacting with the customers, you know very well what the customers want, and now it is left to you to then take all of that data, use it to craft a story that you can use to persuade your boss or the CEO or CTO or whoever is the senior stakeholder that is pushing for that. It happens, it's something that is a situation you're going to find yourself in. So you need to like live, wine and dine with data. Always have data as like your weapon to use to negotiate. There are times where they might be right, and you can also be right. So you need to be able to like find the middle ground, look at the overall business goal, marry that with what the customer wants to be able to provide advice. And that is something that AI would not replace, has not been able to replace yet. And hopefully, I don't know, maybe in the future we don't know what would happen. Lastly is adaptability. Product change, markets change, AI changes, like things change. As a PM, you're not expected to know everything. Um, but what makes you successful, what will make you successful is your ability to adapt, to learn quickly. For example, this AI thing I mentioned is something that everybody is trying to catch up with. Not you would, if one thing I would also advise against is letting people with all of this AI lingo, especially when you read, go join AI groups and all of that online. They will use some lingos that will just confuse you, and the way they speak about it make you scared. Then there are some pessimists as well who are like, "Oh, AI is going to take people's jobs and all of that." Don't allow that, but you just learn, keep learning as much as you can. and apply that in your work. So I decided to add this slide to sort of paint a better picture, to show what AI is great at and what good PMs are great at. So your AI is great at producing and generating documents. If you give it a bunch of data, it can use that to make predictions. It can summarize things. It helps you to scale. But as a good PM or product manager, you are the one who makes decisions. You are one who would prioritize, make judgment calls, influence, as I mentioned earlier. So those are things that you then need to focus on being great at. Um, I got a message. I'm going to wrap up. Okay. Now, quickly, what's now that we are in the AI era and the landscape has changed? This is what I have here is an example of what the way the company where I work evaluates product managers right now, and this is what many companies are beginning to value when they want to hire product managers. So they evaluate based on those things I've mentioned: problem framing, the ability to frame the problem, ask the right questions, understand the problem, and show that you understand that problem. Solution thinking, how you are thinking about crafting the solution, communication, um, success metric, which is very important because when you say, "Oh, this is the solution," then how would you measure the success? So they are no longer testing things like, as of last year, they were still testing things like, oh, documentation and all of that. But right now, like they are no longer testing documentation. AI can do documentation, right? So they're no longer testing that. In fact, during the interview, they would pair you with AI and see how you are using AI to craft the solution. So it becomes very important to have the AI orchestration skills. So nobody's asking you how many certifications you've done and you have and all of that. That is no longer a requirement. In fact, in my company, they've scrapped all these years of experience requirement for job roles. Just prove that you are capable, and if you're able to convince them, you get it. So tips that I would give is don't memorize frameworks. It's good to know frameworks. If you go online, you can Google search product management frameworks and all of that. I feel like those are important things to know. But if you are trying to land a job, don't go memorizing those frameworks and expecting somebody to ask you how many types of prioritization frameworks do we have and all of that. As far as I know, especially in the environments where I am currently, nobody asks you for that. Then you need to always clarify before jumping at a solution. When they ask you to solve a problem, you need to ask them questions to show that you really know what you are doing. Don't just let the interviewer ask you, "Oh, I have a problem, blah blah blah. How would you solve it?" And then you go straight into the solution. Then think aloud. This means that your reasoning around the solution, why you came up with that solution, is something you need to explain. You need to tell them, this is my line of thought, this is why I decided to create a solution, explain the trade-offs, and of course, always have your success metrics. Um, do we still have time? I have this short exercise. I think that's the last thing. Justice, do I still have time or I should just wrap it up? Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I said if it's not going to take too much of the time, you can go.
Okay, well, I have time. I was just considering your time. So I have this interactive exercise that I just to help us to like put ourselves in the shoes of a product manager. So the task is this: design an app that helps university students manage stress. So this is why I will need you all to be interactive. The first question, I have four main questions here. The first question is who is your user? Because as a product manager, that's the first thing you need to identify. So can anyone, I mean, the task, let me go back to the task in case you missed it. Design an app that helps university students manage stress. So who is your user?
University students also.
Well, it's not that simple. Yeah, they are university students, but you have university students in the University of Ilorin, you have university students in Kwasu, you have university students in Unilag, you have inside of those university students, you have 100 level students, 200 level students, 300 level students. Then if you drill down, you have people studying physics, people studying. So like this, what is leading to the stress? You need to go deep because what is leading to the stress, it may be the same, it may be different, but you need to then start to drill down on, you know, the specific users. If you say university students, that's very, very broad. You need to then, you know, be deep into the problem by understanding um, the category of students. You can take a sample size of 100 level students in a particular department and try to understand what is the stress factor, what is leading them to stress. In fact, if by the time you go to different environment, I can categorically say like what is leading to stress for university students in Nigeria, for example, is different from what is giving university students in the UK stress. So like you need to like look at your environment, try to deep down the different categories of users, and then that is how you're able to understand what the problem is and frame the problem properly. The next question is, where is that slide? What is the biggest pain point? So you now need to identify what is that major stress factor. What is that major thing that is leading to stress? So when you identify that, it's maybe one thing, it may be two things, but you need to be able to identify them. There can be like 100 things causing stress, but you need to identify the major ones. One that, for example, if I were to do this, I would look for one that affects more people, that I can connect across departments, if possible across universities. After I've drilled down to like specifics, I can then start to use that to speak with more people to identify what the major pain point is. So depending on the market I'm trying to serve, that's why I have those questions here at this corner. Those are things that you should also always keep in mind. Which market am I serving? Who are the competitors in this market? Are there people already even solving this problem? How are they solving it? Um, then what are the resources that are available or that I need to be able to solve this? Then when you've done all of that, you then need to identify the smallest valuable solution, something small that you can deliver first that would give value. And lastly, how are you going to measure success? So that is how it works in a nutshell. Finally, I want to leave with this three things. Learn products. To learn products, if you're interested in learning products, I have this book I would recommend. It's called Inspired How to Create Tech Products Customers Love by Matty Kagan. There's also one called Decode and Conquer. There are a bunch of books. There are a lot of resources online, to be honest. And you also need to understand the software development life cycle. You need to understand what that is. And secondly, I think this is a must, learn AI. There is this platform it was recently launched called AI for actualwork.com. It is very rich. It helps anybody, even if you are not familiar with AI at all. So I would recommend going through. It's free. Go there, take the course, um, then learn how to use your GPT, your Claude, Perplexity, etc. Familiarize yourself with LLMs, Notebook LLM, for example. Then lastly, try to build. You don't have to work in right now the world has changed. So you don't have to be in a company to work. You can actually start building things. There are apps now that are AI powered, like your Lovable, that you can use to already sketch out how you want to build a product and actually deliver a prototype. We have Figma AI as well. And if you're interested in vibe coding, we have Codex, Claude, Cursor, all of them. Just try to get your hands dirty, use it. Because by using, I feel like the best way to actually learn is when you immerse yourself in that thing. So you need to use it, make mistakes, learn from those mistakes. And yeah, that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, please let's
God bless.
appreciate him. All right, so this is the time where we ask questions. Is there anyone that has any questions? Okay. Everyone has heard it now.
No question. Is it that what I said, the things I said were too complex, or everyone understands? Okay, just
Okay, brother Justice. I think he's raising his hand.
Okay, yeah, Priscilla, thank you very much for the engaging presentation, and I like how simple the presentation was. So the question I have is for people who may be interested in getting. I know you've answered a similar question, but in your own perspective, do you think people should, if people want to learn product management or product development now, should they go through the traditional route of enrolling in a basic product management course, or should they first gain AI literacy and then they can do a course like product management using AI? So, which one is better to learn product management using AI, to learn product management first traditionally before learning to use AI in product management?
okay. Thanks. That's a good question. I think that they can be learned side by side. In fact, you can use AI right now to learn product management. You can use AI to comb the internet and get resources for you. And in that process, you are familiarizing yourself with AI. So you can, like, I wouldn't recommend paying for any course to learn product management, because from my experience, the best way to actually get good or get better at product management is experience, like work, the actual work experience. So there are a bunch of free resources online. Yes, you can always learn those things, take the traditional route, enroll in those courses. The ones that are free, I would recommend the free ones. And learn AI side by side. Like don't think about it like I want to learn this before this. Like use as you are learning, use the AI to practice what you are learning. Learn to use the AI side by side. Um, yeah, that's it. I hope that that makes sense.
Yes, thank you very much, for
Okay.
sure. Sister Patience has a question also.
Thank you for the lesson. I wanted to ask, what's the difference? I don't know if you spoke about it between product and
Okay.
project management.
Product and project management.
Yes.
They are they are quite different. So a project manager is not a product manager and does not do the role of a product manager. For example, those things I mentioned earlier about requirement gathering, interacting with customers to understand the problem, writing the requirements, framing the solution. That's not the business of a project manager. A project manager is usually concerned about scope, most of the time. So you get a project, you try to understand who the stakeholders are, you look at the scope of that project, you work with stakeholders to define a timeline, and you are just basically managing, ensuring that we said we are going to do A, then we do B. As a project manager, you may not necessarily understand the rudiments of those things, like the way they are writing the code, the way they structure the products, and all of that. You may not really understand the exact details of the problem and how they are solving it as a project manager. You are just concerned about, are we delivering this? Is there any blocker? Are there any risk? You are concerned about, are we meeting the timeline? Do we need to communicate to stakeholders? Like, a project manager is like concerned more about the scope, more about timelines, and ensuring that the project is successful based on the plan, and adjusting the plan, based on the things that I encountered along the way. And once that project is delivered, the project manager job ends. But then a product manager does more than that. In fact, at that point where you've delivered a product, and in the eyes of the project manager, the project has ended, that is where your work as a, especially if it is a new product, as a product manager, that is where your work actually starts, because those success metrics that you've defined, you now need to start tracking them. You now need to start improving the product. You now need to start scaling the product. You now need to start doing a bunch of things. So your work never ends. You are like going into the details of the requirements, ensuring that you are building the right solution, and all of that. So the skills that are required for a product manager is quite different, when you look at it from that perspective. There are times where, as a product manager, you actually do those things like managing timelines, depending on the company where you work. I've worked in projects where I was working as a product manager, and there was a project manager who was following everybody up, is there any risk, blockers, and all of that. And I've also worked in teams where, as a product manager, I'm basically doing all of that, like, managing the timelines and all of that. So that is the difference between a project manager and a product manager, in a nutshell. I hope that helps. Patience.
Okay, I think Sister Patience, is that satisfactory enough?
Is
Yes,
that
please.
fine or okay?
Okay, so brother Aide, you have a question, right? Please go on.
First, I would like Rotimi to mute himself. I think there's a background noise coming from him that is making everything weird. Oh, thank you. Um, my question is actually more about your own evolution as a product manager. You studied biochemistry, and I would think that you had a particular push that's got you into that field in the first place. If you could tell us exactly why you chose management as a career, and what led you to that in the first place. People who need motivation, apart from the hands-on skills, to probably need a story to let them know that yes, this is doable. Thank you, and thank you for a
Wow.
wonderful presentation.
Okay. That's a question that the answer would become a story. Maybe I would answer you, but maybe Brother Ike should go first, then I would answer, because I might end up narrating a very long story here. But okay.
Good evening, everyone. Richu, thank you very
Yes,
much for
sir.
the session. It was a wonderful one. So I want to I want to ask you a question. So now we have lots of peer pressure, especially those of us still in the university or trying to come out. We see lots of things happening. Young ones are jumping into Yahoo and making fast cash and other things like that. Now, you are telling us about projects and product management. How long will it take us to make money from this thing? And is there a fast track to this thing so that we don't get distracted along the way? And maybe instead of us to be consistent, we just see another way like that, they drag us out. What would they advise us? Thank you, sir.
Oh my God. Okay. This is not a sorry, Brother Larry, I would answer your question next after I answered it. So this is not a fast money making profession. Um, it takes time. You need to immerse yourself into the learning. And one thing I would advise is to look out for internships, reach out to people, even if it is to work for them, especially when you're in school where your parents are still sending you money. If you're still in school and your parents are still sending you money, that is an opportunity to learn without thinking about how am I going to get money to eat and all of that. So try to immerse yourself in the learning and engage with people. There was a time that somebody reached out to me on LinkedIn that she wanted to go into product management. I didn't know her from anywhere. And luckily for her, at that point in time, my company, they were trying to hire a lot of interns and all of that. And I recommended her, she interviewed and she got it. If she didn't reach out at that point in time, like she probably wouldn't have, I don't know, she might have been a product manager today, she might have not been, but she took the initiative to reach out and she got the internship position and she's now a product manager in the company. I've left the company and she's still working there as a product manager. So like it's not a fast money making profession, but there is money to be made. You get reasonable pay. When you start, you would actually start my when I started, I was earning how much? I started as a copper. So I was being paid 15,000 naira. And I had that with my allowance to be able to survive at that time. So, and then I started growing little by little until the money became like I'm rubber salary. So you need to understand that you have to start small and don't have pride and just be humble. Then support it with prayers as well. Thank God we are all Christians here. Support it with prayers. But you need to immerse yourself in the learning and in the experience. That experience part is very, very important because it's when you work with that companies have different dynamics. And I also feel like the type of company you work, which is why you need to support it with prayers, the kind of company where you work have an impact on your career as well. If you work in a company where they have terrible practices, terrible culture, like companies where there are companies where the CEO or the owner of the company, or whatever role they call themselves, it can be one person, it can be two people. They are the ones dictating what you should do. They don't even allow you as a product manager to, come to communicate, oh, this is the problem, this is how we should solve it. They don't allow you to use that skill to do things the right way. They will just say, oh, we need to do this feature. This is the feature that is going to get us the next $1 million, and that's it. And we just need to figure out, how to come up with requirements and coordinate with the team to build that feature. That is not a good place to work. Like, look for companies that follow. That's why it's important to understand the software development lifecycle. Look, when you're working in a company, ensure they follow those processes. They allow they look at what customer wants and use that, to improve the product and all of that. So it's not a like don't I know all those, even all of those Yahoo. Sometimes it takes time, right? But just keep it at the back of your mind that a lot of those um, things like Yahoo, they crimes. And if Nigeria was a proper working country, all of the people doing Yahoo should be in jail right now. So as Christians, we should not even consider doing Yahoo, right? So any any profession that would, for me, anything that would lead me to hellfire, I would run from it. So it's not always, you can be lucky. There are people who their first, as at the time when there was a time when my salary grew from 15K to 80,000 naira then back then in Lagos. And there was this young boy who just started out in product management and he got a job of 150K. And then I remember then I was pissed off like, oh, this my company is cheating me. See this person that is just starting out, and they are paying him 150K and all of that. It seemed like it got to me at that time. But like I just kept on doing what I was doing, learning, improving, adapting. Very important skill. There are there are times where in the company, like they would ask you. There were times where I was literally doing like sales stuff. I built, I started the product from inception, from ideation. We built, we launched, we got to the market. It was now left to start selling, and improving on the product. And they were like, oh, you have all of the knowledge, and all of that. You need to follow us to sales demo. We started from follow me to one sales demo to follow me to two sales demo. I started doing the work of sales, going for sales presentation, pressed me out. But at the end of the day, all of the knowledge and experience that I gained in that process helps me to advance my career. So don't shy away from taking on other responsibilities. There are companies where, especially small companies, they don't even understand what the role of a product manager is properly, right? So you just need to like trust the process, keep doing what you are doing, keep learning, keep adapting, and support it with prayers. But it's not a fast money venture. And again, one thing I need to mention is that this is a global skill. It is what it's not one of those skills that when you learn it in Nigeria, for example, when you now travel out of Nigeria, you need to go and do some special certification or something to be able to work. You could even get a job from like outside the country. I know people in Nigeria working, in fact, before I left Nigeria, I was working for an international company. So like you could be in Nigeria and working, it's a global skill. Like they say, tech is a global village. It's a skill that applies anywhere in the world. I know young boys right now, even though it's not product management, but it's in the same space. Like we just learned coding and all of that. They are working with companies in Singapore, all of that. So it's like a global skill. It positions you to be relevant globally and not just within your immediate environment. That is something that people doing Yahoo will never have. Yeah, I hope that helps. Okay. Now to answer brother Larry's question. My own journey started when I was in uni. So I actually biochemistry was not that I studied was not what I wanted to study. I wanted to study medicine. And it took me years before I was like, okay, I eventually got the biochemistry in Ilorin, I said, okay, let me do it. And before then, I've always been somebody who was interested in tech and computers. I was fascinated by computers and tech and all of that. So in my 200 level, my original plan when I entered Illinois was, after biochemistry, I'll probably back to study medicine. But by the time I was in 200 level, there is this stuff we used to do. I don't know if they still do it. Probably they still do it. This CWES program, where to get a placement for CWES was very difficult. Just to find a place where I would work for free to do COS for how many months? I forgot how many. Was it 3 months or something like that? It was very difficult to get placement for COS with biochemistry. And that was the period that I began to realize that I need to get a skill that is more global, that is more relevant, that is more recent, that can allow me to get like just like a backup plan. And in my 300 level, I started learning HTML, CSS. I actually wanted to branch into coding and stuff like that. So that was what was for me, that was what positioned me. So by the time I finished my um, program in Ilorin and I went for NYC. In fact, on the first day of NYC, something happened that helped me to get my first job, that helped me to get into this product management career. And I feel like everything it was God. That's how I feel about it. So when I got to NYC camp in Lagos, there was a room that was initially assigned. The number on that room that was there initially was different. So when they gave me my room number, I took my bag upstairs, went to keep it in that room, and then went downstairs to do the registration and whatnot and all of that, get my car key and that. So by the time I got back, they said, oh, this is no longer the room. They've changed the number. It's the room on the opposite side of that room. So I moved my bag, it was already late in the night, went to the opposite room, and the only bunk down, the lower bunk that was available for me was beside the guy that linked me with my first job. So I just took my bag, put it on that bed, and it just happened that me and that guy started talking. He also knows about it, but the guy is a business guy. Like the guy really gone far. Like he's a multi-millionaire right now. So we were talking about tech, about stuff, and I was like, oh, I know this tech company that just started. They're a startup in Ikeja. I can link you up so that you even do your NYC there and all of that. And that was how me and guys started talking. So by the time we gave me the phone number of somebody who knows who works in that company, and I went to the company for an interview. NYC posted me to one school in Ikorodu, so I had to reject myself from that school. I interviewed the company, the CEO. Even the way the interview went was a very, very funny interview because I got there, the CEO I was in my NYC uniform, clean white shirt with iron khaki and everything. And he just sort of liked my dressing that day. And the interview was just like banter. And he was asking me some questions. He was asking me like, how many Facebook friends do I have? I was like, I don't know. How many followers do I have on Instagram? I was like, I don't know. Most of the questions he was asking, they were not typical interview questions. So he was asking me about my background. And then there was one question that ended the interview. He asked me the name of my secondary school. And I told him, oh, I went to two secondary schools. One is public and one is private. As I mentioned the name of the private, which is called Leave Secondary School in Ota, this man burst into laugh, called some other people, and they were laughing like, what kind of name is Subliz? They were laughing. That was how I just said, come and resume on so day, and that was how I got the job. So when I joined, I started advancing my coding skills. I was learning how to write PHP, even though what I was doing at the company, what they hired me for, the role that they had open, especially because I was a copper and all, it was not a coding. They had some projects they were working on, but it was not a software engineering. And they have senior software engineers, so they are not looking for somebody to train. That I needed to train myself. I needed to learn myself. I was doing something different entirely. But it just happens that whenever they give me things to do, I will do it. We need to do this research, blah, blah, blah. All of those things, again, it's one of the, maybe this is like me tracking a bit, but one of the things I also always say is in school, always immerse yourself in the process. My final year project, the process of doing that research, getting my project out, doing all of those things in my final year was what helped me to be able to do some of those things they were asking me to do, like doing research, um, trying to connect the dots, trying to investigate things. And they were just giving me, then I could also write. So they would say, oh, we need to publish an article on our blog. And they'll tell me to come up with a topic. I write an article, they will review it. And they actually made me better at writing articles. So I was basically doing like business related stuff and not coding. So at some point I told them, oh, I actually want to start coding. So they paired me with somebody, gave me some resources. That was when I started because they were, most of it backend, their backend was PHP. So I started learning how to write PHP. But then it happens that the company at that time, they were a job aggregator. So at that time in Nigeria, Google didn't have Google now has like a Google for jobs, like they aggregate job posting when people are looking for a job. Like Google does a great job at that. But at that time, in 2015, 2016, it was not. We had Indeed, we had some job sites, we had Alt Nigeria Jobs, we had Jobberman, we had a bunch of job sites. So what the company does then was they used to aggregate jobs from multiple job sites, put them in one place so that if you are looking for a job, you don't have to go to all of those different job sites. So part of what I was doing then was a content reviewer and editor, ensuring we have mechanisms of verifying that jobs are not fake jobs before we publish them so they can be posted on the platform and all of that. So from that, even like so I was basically immersing myself in the process, doing all of that. So the product management role itself kicked off when we actually wanted to build a new product. At that time, it was an ATS, so an applicant tracking system. Because of the way the company was in that space, they understood that it's beyond just getting jobs. In the back, the people managing that. Imagine you post that you need just 5 people and like 2,000 people are applying for that job. How do you then manage those? And at the time, we had software like Oracle, expensive software back in Nigeria, and it's mostly banks and big companies that are able to afford this software at that time. So they wanted to build something, and that was how I started doing product management work, interfacing with customers, requirement gathering. I'm like, oh, this is actually interesting. This is a field I would like to grow in. I even did QA, software testing at some point. Like I did a bunch of things, and then that was I was like, oh, this is a field that I would like to grow in. I was taking online courses. I was immersing myself in the experience, doing product. We started from that product. We're building more products, and till the company scaled, raised Series A, and they were able to pay us better salaries. Yeah, and that's how I got here today. I hope this inspires someone.
Yeah, thank you. From a simple bunk story to the top of the food chain.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
All right. Is there anyone that has any other question, please, before we wrap it up? I think there's nobody else. Thank you so much, sir, for that wonderful discussion. And it really inspired me. These days that people really they are looking up to people that are now moguls and multimillionaires for the particular price that they paid. Many people are not really ready to make that to pay the price, but they really want the price.
Yeah, thank you for that. Sorry,
Okay,
sorry, can I
it
please say
seems you're
this?
ready for some hard now.
Sorry,
I'd like
can
to
you hear
follow
me?
you. Okay.
Just in case we have
Sorry, do
like,
you want to say something?
yeah, just in case we have, I don't know if we have undergraduates here, but again, just to say
All
how
right.
tough
So
it's
moving on,
out of
we would like to call
it
on
can okay, so I think our network
prayers.
is
Okay.
okay. So just I just wanted to chip in that in case we have undergraduates here, and I know that there is a lot of um I understand just as Brother
Yeah,
Ike
somebody has
mentioned
indicated
earlier.
that they are undergraduates here.
Yeah, yeah. So I wanted to say that I understand that there is a lot of peer pressure now. I can't imagine during my time in uni learning, for example, it wasn't that bad. I feel like right now it was like, seeing your classmates driving Benz, C-class Benz, and you're trekking um, from Okeodo to school gates, and all of that. So I understand that there is that peer pressure, but the way, like personally, the way I treat peer pressure is I have a plan for myself. I trust in God. Always have a plan for yourself. Always have a goal that you're looking towards, and trust in God that God is going to help you to achieve those goals so that you can shield yourself from all of that. I know it can be difficult. Even when you start, it will take time. It might take a while, like to get that actual reward, like in terms of salary, and all of that that you want. It might take some time, but just ensure that you have God, you put God first, you are doing what is right, you have a plan that you are working towards, you are committing that plan. Planning, why I mentioned plan, there was something that one of my first boss in that company, there was something that there was, I've forgotten this passage of the Bible that he used to quote that has to do with writing your plan upon tables. That was a Bible passage that he used to quote a lot of times. So planning is very important. It helps you to like have clarity, like writing down the plan, not just planning it in your head, like writing down the plan, like this is my plan, these are my goals. So you are able to even lay those plans. You can then lay it out to God. That God, I have plan one, plan two, plan three, plan four. Please help me, direct me, and that. So I just wanted to chip that. Like there is not going to be all rosy and all that. Yeah. Thank you. That's it.
Yeah, I think she's struggling with network today. So thank you very much again, Pucho, for that interesting session and for sharing the inspiring story with us. I believe that everyone here is blessed in some way and in somehow by the content he has shared and by his own personal story. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining the call and for making the plan and preparation that we had ahead of this day. This day, a blessing for us and for the team here at Church of Christ Tanke Alumni. So to close the event today, we just want to ask Brother Ike to give us a closing prayer.
Please, before the closing prayer, let me just appeal to everybody that have joined. Please, you people should be encouraging us when we are making efforts. I never knew that like more than 20 people would join this call because when we post these notifications, we hardly even see likes. So I don't know. We can't say we are so busy that just to click like is a big deal, and we are planning to attend the program. It's not nice. So the likes will help us know that okay, these people are, people are interested and all that. So please let's try and be indicating that maybe we like or whatever and things like that. Please, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Please, can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you so much. All right, like
Hello.
I was
Oh,
saying,
sorry, I've been speaking and I didn't even know that I was muted. Sorry, Hannah, you weren't online. Sorry to block you, but thank you very much, brother Rotimi, for sharing that closing remark. That is a very good way to close the remark. And I had said while I was muted, unfortunately, that brother Ike should please give us a closing prayer. And before that, please let's just appreciate this jewel of the kingdom. Sister Hannah Olabi, she's our volunteer community manager. She's managing all admin activities on the group. And as Brother Rotimi said, she just keep posting, working hard, planning things and all of that. But nobody, like, we don't have a culture of reacting to these things on the group. And it's not very helpful. So while we're here, please let's just appreciate this jewel of the kingdom. So thank you very much, Hannah. And we know you had a difficult network experience today, but thank you for planning things and coming through for us. God bless you. And thank you very much, everyone, for joining the call. Thank you, Brother Adepoju, Anthony Adepoju, for sharing your inspiring story, your experience. And we believe it's a blessing. It has been a blessing to every one of us here. The experienced of us at the top, like Brother Heike, and those of us who are coming up, the undergraduates among us. Thank you very much, everyone. Sister Anna, Brother Ike would give us a closing prayer. Over to you.
Let us pray. Our King of Kings, our Lord of Lords, we thank you for your continuous show of love and affection towards our life. We thank you for the section we are rounding up now, God. We thank you for the presenter. You have endowed knowledge through him to us. So God, we pray that you replenish the efforts that he has dropped in hundreds of fold. We thank you for blessing every one of us here present. And we know that the wealth of knowledge we have gathered, we would utilize it, and to the glory of your wonderful name. If we have erred against thee, and we forgive us our sins and our righteousness, may we have a lovely night rest. And anywhere we are, may we protect us continuously. Take all the glory, take all the honor, Father. This and many more we've prayed through Christ's holy name.
Amen.
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 Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
amen.
Thanks for joining.
Thank you so much, Brother Andy. Thank you so much for answering our call. Thank you, everyone, for joining. God bless you.
And thank you to
Amen.
the
God bless you
visitors
too,
as
sir.
well.
Amen.
Thank you,
Yes, so
everyone. Thank you.
thank you everyone that joined.